Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So I have a book review for you today. I wanted to talk about Darkest Hours by Mike Thorn. And just full disclosure, I did receive this book for free from the author in exchange for an honest review on the channel. So this is a short story collection that is actually a reissue. So this is an older book that has been expanded and it has a new foreword and such. So it did come out just this month, I believe, in June. And first of all, can we talk about the amazing cover on this book? I just absolutely fell in love with the cover art as soon as I opened it. It's just gorgeous. And it's something that really draws me in because I love pentacles and pentagrams. So basically, if a cover has a star on it, I'm going to read it. But we all know that I also have a love of short horror collections. So this one absolutely did not disappoint. It's a collection of 16 short horror stories, and it kind of veers off into the realm of sort of weird fiction, I guess. It was really, really interesting to read, and as I was reading it, a lot of the stories also have a common sort of theme of addiction and obsession, and Mike Thorn really writes the sort of delinquent teenager really, really well. I read Shelter for the Damned earlier this year. That was also a new release from Mike Thorn, and I really enjoyed it. And he just has this knack for writing that style of character. And this was a common theme throughout most of the stories in this book. And like I said, it has a lot to do with obsession and addiction, especially addiction with drugs and alcohol. But it was written in a way that sometimes it was a subliminal message, or you really had to read between the lines to get, you know, the overall story and the overall meaning that he was really trying to portray. And I loved just about every single story in this book. I, of course, had some stories that didn't really speak to me, but I have to say, for the most part, I enjoyed this book cover to cover. And I found myself sort of thinking that I would have loved to have read this book in high school as part of my advanced literature program that I was taking when I was in grade 12, because these characters are really going to speak to that generation, but also it's a really, really great study of emotion and addiction and all of that sort of thing that sometimes it was really prevalent in the story, but sometimes it was a little bit, like I said, more of a subliminal message. And one of these stories really hit me really hard, and it's called A New Kind of Drug, and I believe it was only the second story in the book, and I just loved it. It was very emotional to me. It really, really hit me emotionally because of what these two boys were experiencing together, and then you had sort of this entity that they were dealing with, and then a weird dysfunctional family dynamic as well. And there was so much going on in that story that I think you could really spend a lot of time picking it apart and having it for discussion. So like I said, I kind of saw myself thinking, hey, I would have absolutely loved to have reviewed this book when I was in high school, because like I said, it really speaks to that generation, and Mike Thorn really, really writes those kinds of characters very, very well. So having said that, you know, there is emotional stories in here. There's ones that are gruesome. There's ones that kind of deal with sort of a weird sort of cosmic element. And, you know, there's ones that kind of have a visceral sort of reaction, I think, when you would read it. The very first story in this book is called Hair, and it very much has to do with hair. And I found when I was reading it, I had like my stomach was up in my throat the whole time. I was totally grossed out. So I think this author's writing style really kind of gets you, it really sinks you into the story, whether it's an emotional story or something that's kind of grossing you out. You do have those strong reactions to these stories. So overall, this story collection was written really, really well, and I think there's something in here for everyone. Like I said, you get everything from, you know, gruesome and gross right up to emotional, and I just really, really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from this author. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Darkest Hours 4 stars. I think everyone should pick this up, especially if you enjoy short story collections that kind of have a similar theme throughout all of the stories, and especially if you enjoy reading that delinquent teenager sort of trope. So there you go, that is my full review on Darkest Hours by Mike Thorn. Thank you so much to the author for sending this out for a review. I really enjoyed this one. If you like this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up and leave me a question or a comment down below. Have you read this collection or are you planning on picking it up? I would really like to know. But until next time, stay spooky guys. Bye.